Hello, Internet. I am Pastor Recoil, and welcome to my parish. Today is the third Sunday in Lent, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome to Pastor Recoil's Parish, where I talk about some things you may not have heard about in church, either because it's not quite appropriate for all audiences, or it just isn't something that's easy to talk about in a sermon. Today's readings for the third Sunday in Lent are Exodus 17, 1 through 7, Psalm 95, Romans 5, 1 through 11, and John 4, 5 through 42. Today, we're going to talk about outsiders. Now, before we get into that, I should talk about the human brain, which, for all of our smarts and all of our ingenuity, is sometimes weirdly inflexible. There is a thing out there called Dunbar's number, which theorizes that we humans can only maintain about 150 social relationships before things start to get weird. This plays out in various layers of closeness, with humans able to maintain about 5 really close relationships, 10 kind of close relationships, then 35, then 100, and then ultimately the 150 number. Now, there's a lot of debate in that area of scholarship about Dunbar's number, but I think the ways that we treat one another at least show that we don't always see the people around us as fully human. Now, this, of course, is obvious to anyone who has ever worked in a customer service job. People who are employed as restaurant servers, flight attendants, and store clerks, things like that, all tend to get treated as subhuman by customers from time to time. So because it gets difficult for us to treat each other as human all the time, and it's hard to manage a large number of social relationships, we create stereotypes of those whom we don't have close relationships with. This is how we function in the world. Sometimes these stereotypes are harmless, but not always. Sometimes they actively cause harm. In John's Gospel for today, Jesus encounters an outsider, an unnamed woman who is different from Jesus in both religion and ethnicity. Jesus' cultural upbringing would have told him that this Samaritan woman was a heretic and a half-breed, and not worthy of Jesus' time. Never mind the fact that she was a woman, and also in Jesus' cultural upbringing, not worthy of Jesus' time. This creates an interesting intersection of various kinds of othering that meant that Jesus, by all rights, was supposed to ignore this woman. But instead, Jesus has a chat with her. She is shocked by this, and when Jesus' disciples get back from going to the first century 7-Eleven for food, they're shocked by this as well. And yet Jesus continues to treat this woman like a human, like a person, and not like an outsider. Then later in this chapter, the whole town of the Samaritans comes to believe in Jesus. And yet nowadays, Christians tend to not interact with the other very much. The other is either someone scary to be avoided, or someone who is objectified as a thing needing to hear the good news of Jesus. And yet Jesus interacts with this woman in many ways as an equal and not like an other, which flies in the face of cultural tradition and Dunbar's number alike. It's a good reminder for all of us that when we encounter people who are outside of our usual social circles, that we all have inherent value as humans. The things that make us different aren't things to belittle, but things to celebrate as part of the diversity within our human species. If we are all, as humans, made in God's image, then we all reflect the God who, in Christian teaching, created each and every one of us. So if you want to see more content like this, check out the links to my right, or click the logo below my face to subscribe so you'll know when my next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and take the time this week to love your neighbor as yourself, especially if you don't like them all that much.